10 de la noche. Acá estamos viendo también el hueque, estamos viendo cómo está bajando la ley. ¡Guardo! Aguanta. Vamos a levantarlo de nosotros, güey. Ahora que se vuelven.
It's hard to put a precise number, but by some estimates, 14,000 farm workers live in Napa and Sonoma County combined, and more than half stay year-round for work. The work is physically challenging, but what adds to the stress of a farm worker's life in this North Bay region is the difficulty in finding a stable and affordable place to live. In order to understand the current state of farm worker housing, we looked back at a special report published in the Press Democrat in 2021. In a several months long investigation, reporter Kathleen Coates writes, farm workers and other low-income residents are living in squalid, substandard dwellings and are barely a step above homelessness. And many of the farm workers she reported on were dealing with rodents, mold, sewage backup, or a lack of a working toilet. The report goes on to describe one 58-year-old farm worker couple who have been living in a garage for the past 4 years. They have no kitchen and can only use the bathroom in the neighboring house when the owners aren't home. At the time, the couple were paying $850 a month for rent.
The thing that really burned into my head was this woman. She and her husband were able to move out of these apartments that had black mold and rats coming in through the heater. It was a year later, they were able to move out because they had this rent strike and they saved some money and they had some other assistance. And they moved into this nice apartment with their 2 kids, and yet she still found it hard to sleep at night because she basically had PTSD.
I decided to reach out to Santino Garcia of California Human Development. He's with an organization with more than 50 years of experience assisting farm workers through education, job training, and housing. He wanted me to see the River Ranch Farm Worker Housing Center in St. Helena. It's definitely not a place for every farm worker. It serves only single men. It's dormitory-style housing. But for $15 a day, you get a bed, a clean room, and 3 square meals.
So this farm labor center is necessary, mainly because the farm workers that come in early in the year, a lot of them are undocumented. They're single. Maybe they don't have credit history. So if this place didn't exist, where would they go? And this type of housing cannot be left out of the conversation when we talk about farm worker housing for that very reason.
Every affordable housing idea ends up asking the same question. How do you pay for all this? Santino finds this farm worker center has a unique and creative way to raise the funds.
It's really the only model that exists in California and probably in the United States where you have this really unique collaboration, this public-private partnership. So these buildings are owned by Napa County, but we receive funding from the state of California. We also get funding from the vintners.
This location seems to work well if you're single, male, and undocumented. So I asked Santino, what about an undocumented family? What kind of options are out there for them? And he pointed me to a place called H Plaza, located in Lake County.
They were fishing cabins that farm workers were living in. No electricity, no running water,
And during the 1990s, those dilapidated cabins were turned into comfortable 2, 3, and 4-bedroom apartments.
That is very important because with the state funding, you do not have the legal status requirement that federally funded projects carry. So what that means is the farm workers that are undocumented have an option.
It's pretty common to have resistance from residents in desirable communities when they hear that farm worker housing is being proposed in their neighborhood. That happened in Cloverdale last year during a vote to approve a 75-unit affordable housing project. Some residents living near the site voiced concerns about quality of life related issues. Some detractors, using language filled with bigotry and prejudice towards low-income and Latino residents, were met with a months-long campaign headed by Generation Housing, advocating for marginalized citizens seeking an affordable place to live. But during a final Planning Commission meeting, Policy Director Callum Weeks of Generation Housing spoke of overwhelming community support. Enough impassioned voices rose to push through a 3-2 vote of approval in January 2022. So I asked Santino about that resistance to farm worker housing in nice neighborhoods. He told me I should check out Ortiz Plaza. It's located on the north end of Santa Rosa, in the heart of Sonoma County. It's 30 units with a sleek, modern, colorful design. From what I was told, the neighborhood has embraced the residents of Ortiz Plaza, and there's local support for plans to expand and more than double its occupancy. I arrived on a quiet Sunday afternoon to talk to some of the residents. There I met Roberto Calderon. He's a 23-year-old farm worker from Michoacan, Mexico, who lives with his mother and his 2 sisters.
Es mi mamá, se llama Teresa, yo, Roberto, mi hermana, la más pequeña, Selene, y mi hermana Areli.
3 months ago, everybody in that family portrait, Roberto, his mother, and his 2 sisters, were crammed into a single bedroom, paying $900 a month. I asked Roberto, what were those first days like, moving into this new 2-bedroom place?
Pues lloraba porque pues no me la creía. Es un sentimiento que no se puede como describir porque no son muchos sentimientos, como que no te la crees, como de estar en un cuartito a ver donde vas a vivir ya, tu privacidad, la comodidad, de que pues es un sentimiento que no hay palabras para describir ese sentimiento, porque solamente el que lo está viviendo en ese momento sabe y siente lo que realmente es, la verdad. Entonces, pues...
Directly across the hall from Roberto lives a family of 3. That's Viridiana in the red baseball cap. She's a farm worker. And her wife, Marisela, next to her, well, she's a stay-at-home mom. That's their 2-year-old son, Maximiliano. And visiting that day, on the right, is Max's best friend, Elias.
But with affordable housing, it was easier for me to stay home with him and still have a good life and not have to be living paycheck to paycheck, because your rent is based on how much money you earn. So that's what we liked about here. It's a good community to be in. You're not discriminated because of your life choices, because of who your partner is. Like a lot of people might see it's still weird, even though it's not. But some other people still don't accept how we are. And being here, we don't feel discriminated or anything. All the neighbors are nice. We say hello. I might not know their name, but I mean, if I walk by them, everyone will greet you. Everyone's nice.
We can't emphasize enough the enormous amount of wealth created by farm worker labor in this California region. And within that labor force lies a vast number of unique individual housing needs.
It's really important that we listen to what the farm workers are saying, because, they're a marginalized population within a marginalized population that, quite frankly, doesn't have a voice. So we need to lend them a voice, and we really need to be paying attention to what their needs are.